Hello, dear. It's Maria. And you won't believe the message I got while watering my dahlias one Tuesday morning. I sold your lake house and Dad's watch. Bye. That was it. No punctuation, no explanation. Just that cold little text sitting on my screen like it hadn't just sliced straight through my chest. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped the watering can. I stood there in my slippers, ankle deep in mud, and reread it 5 times like somehow the words might rearrange themselves into something kinder. But they didn't. That house. That was where my husband and I built everything that ever felt safe. The dock where we taught our daughter Eliza how to fish. The porch swing where he'd hum Patsy Cline in the evenings. The watch glinting on his wrist as he rocked gently beside me. And the watch, don't even get me started on the watch, that was the only thing he asked me to keep close when he knew the cancer was winning. And now she sold them. Not, can we talk? Not, I'm in trouble, just, bye. I couldn't breathe, not properly. There was a high-pitched ringing in my ears as if someone had broken a wine glass in my head. I sat down on the porch steps and stared out at nothing, the phone limp in my palm. At first, I thought, maybe it's a joke, a cruel, impossible joke. But Eliza hadn't called me in weeks, months even. Ever since she remarried that man with the tight jaw and tight accounts, she'd grown distant. But this was something else. I called her, straight to voicemail. I texted, "What are you talking about? The lake house isn't yours to sell. Neither is your father's watch." No reply. I drove straight to the attorney's office, the same man who'd handled our wills and deeds for decades. Bless his heart, Frank still wore suspenders like it was 1975 and still had the kind of memory that knew which paper was signed with what kind of pen. I told him what had happened, showed him the text, watched his face grow pale as he typed and clicked through folders and databases, and then he said the words that made my blood go ice cold. "Maria, she forged your signature." That's when something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let her walk away from this. Not like that. Not with his watch. Not with my home. Not with our memories. You want to sell off your parents' lives like yard sale leftovers, Eliza? Fine. But you're about to learn exactly what I've learned over 73 years. You don't cross a mother who still remembers everything. When I was 38 and had Eliza, I remember thinking, there she is, my forever. I held her close and whispered promises into the soft fuzz of her head. Promises to protect her, raise her right, love her even when she broke things, like vases, rules, or hearts. But I never imagined the thing she'd break was me. Driving home from Frank's office, my hands gripped the steering wheel tight as steel. It felt like someone had wrapped a heavy, wet quilt over my chest, smothering me with disbelief. I replayed every warning sign I'd ignored over the years. The way she'd started treating my things like they were hers. The way she always changed the subject when I mentioned the lake house or her father's watch. The way she never brought her new husband around me unless there was something they wanted. They'd always been in a rush to update things, to clean up the paperwork, to move forward. I thought they meant well. God help me, I wanted to believe they meant well. But now it was plain. They were planning this. Maybe not from the beginning, but certainly long enough to make it look clean on paper. Clean enough to file deeds and sell my home right out from under me. I didn't tell anyone yet. Not even Betty, who'd probably show up with a baseball bat and bail money. No, I needed to think. Instead, I drove up to the lake house myself. It was late afternoon by the time I pulled in. The air had that crisp scent of autumn pine and water, and I could almost hear his laughter bouncing off the dock. My chest tightened when I saw the sign out front. Sold, pending closing. There was a white SUV parked in the driveway. Not mine, not Eliza's either. I stepped out, heart pounding, and walked right up like I still owned the place, because as far as I was concerned, I damn well did. The woman who opened the door couldn't have been more than 30, with shiny hair and those expensive yoga pants that always look like they've never been sweated in. She smiled. "Hi, are you the neighbor?" I looked her in the eye and said, "No, darling, I'm the woman this house was stolen from." Her smile faltered. "Oh, are you Maria?" I nodded once. She blinked, clearly uncomfortable now, and stepped aside to let me in. "Eliza said you were fine with everything, that you understood the situation." "Oh, I understand the situation just fine," I said, my voice as calm as a lake before a storm. I walked the house room by room, fingers grazing the door frames, the kitchen counter, the mantel where our wedding photo used to sit. Everything was bare, empty, like someone had taken all the soul and boxed it up. And then in the master bedroom, my bedroom, I saw it, a small velvet box on the dresser, open, my husband's watch. I don't remember walking across the room. I just remember the feel of it in my palm. Cool, solid, real. The tick-tick-tick still steady as ever. He'd worn it every day for 41 years. He wore it when he held our daughter for the first time, when he fixed the motor on the boat, when he lay in hospice and said, "Promise me you'll keep it, just for you. Don't let it go." And now it sat in a stranger's bedroom, waiting to be boxed up like junk. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just closed the box, tucked it under my coat, and said, "You'll need to tell your agent the sale is on hold, indefinitely." She started to protest, stammering something about contracts, but I was already walking back out the door. By the time I reached the car, my phone buzzed again. "Eliza. You were not supposed to go up there. That house is sold. Do not ruin this for me." I sat in the driver's seat, gripping the watch like it was a lifeline. Then I typed one sentence. "You messed with the wrong mother." And I meant it. I didn't sleep that night. Not a wink. I sat at my kitchen table in the dark, cradling that watch in my hands like it was a newborn. The tick was steady, patient, almost smug, like it knew we were about to do something unthinkable. The more I stared at it, the clearer it became. Eliza wasn't just lost. She'd run headlong into the deep end and taken my memories with her. But she forgot one thing. I'm still alive. And I remember everything. I waited until morning to call Frank again. He picked up on the first ring, groggy as sin. "Maria, you all right?" "No, Frank, I'm not all right, but I'm ready." He paused, then said gently, "Tell me what you want to do." "I want it undone," I said. "I want the sale voided. I want the watch back in my name. And I want to know exactly what law she broke so I can put it right under her nose." There was silence, then a quiet cough. "We'll need to move fast. If the closing finalizes, it'll be harder. But I can file a temporary injunction, maybe stall for a couple weeks." "Good," I said, "because I've got a plan." Truth is, I didn't have one yet, but I would. See, Eliza didn't just betray me, she insulted me. Thought I'd just roll over and let her sell off our life like it was clutter. But she forgot I was a secretary for a litigator for 20 years. I used to proofread depositions with a toddler on my hip. I used to fix a broken water heater in the morning and go toe-to-toe with insurance companies by lunch. She forgot who raised her. I made a list, a real pen and paper list, not a phone note like these kids do now. Find out who bought the house, confirm forgery, get legal proof, talk to the buyers, face Eliza. That last one, it nearly broke my hand to write, because as angry as I was, there was grief underneath it all. That house wasn't just walls. It was him. It was us. And she gave it away for what? Money? Control? Spite? I knew what her husband was like. Slick smile, banker handshake, always talking in numbers instead of names. He didn't love my daughter. He managed her, and she let him. Somewhere along the way, she'd stopped asking me what was right and started asking him what was profitable. I called the real estate agent listed on the sold sign. A young man answered, chirpy and clueless. Oh, yes, the Kaufmans. Beautiful couple, second home. They were thrilled. Got it way under asking. Kaufman? I repeated. Yes, ma'am. Big real estate developer from Denver. Wants to renovate it, turn it into a luxury short-term rental. Hot tubs and all. I thanked him and hung up, my heart in my throat. She hadn't just sold it. She'd sold it to people who would tear it apart, strip the pine walls, bulldoze the dock, turn our quiet summer home into some kind of Airbnb nightmare with digital lockboxes and cocktail decks. Oh no, 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 no. I drove straight to the Kaufman's main office in town, marched right past the receptionist, straight into the glass-walled office where Mr. Kaufman himself was sipping a green smoothie like it was his crown. I set the velvet box on his desk. This doesn't belong to you, I said. He blinked. Excuse me? My daughter sold you a house she had no right to sell, I said calmly. That watch was inside. That house is mine. And if you so much as knock down a single wall, you'll be rebuilding it in court. He stood, clearly not used to being spoken to like this. Mrs. Granny Maria? I said with a smile. And unless you want to be on the front page of the Courier under local developer accused of elder theft, you'll put your renovation plans on hold? He stared at me, stunned. Good, let him. But I wasn't done yet, not by a mile. I left his office, pulled out my phone, and called Betty. Can you still get into Eliza's place? I asked. She didn't hesitate. Just say when, because now it was time to ruin her little escape. Betty showed up in a rust-colored windbreaker, 2 cups of gas station coffee, and that look in her eye she used to get right before throwing a punch at a church bingo cheater. We hadn't done something like this since 1982, when we accidentally locked my cousin's no-good ex-husband out of his own garage until he paid back child support. You sure you want to go through with this? She asked, passing me the lukewarm coffee. I nodded. She needs to see me, not a text, not a voicemail, me. We drove in silence mostly, the way old friends can. Betty had always understood grief without needing words. She lost her sister 2 years before my Henry passed, and we'd held each other through the worst of it. But this betrayal cut deeper than death. Death is nature. This was a choice. Eliza lived in a townhouse complex with coded gates and very nosy neighbors. But Betty, God bless her sneaky streak, still had the old access code from when she cat-sat during Eliza's second honeymoon. We pulled in slow. Her husband's silver Lexus wasn't there. Good. I didn't need to see his smug face. I stood at her front door, hands clenched, heart going mad in my chest. Then I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, harder. Nothing. I turned to Betty. Wait here. I opened the little garden box beside the door. Eliza always kept a spare key there, even after I told her that was the first place a thief would look. Inside I went. Her house smelled expensive. Candles that probably cost more than my first couch. Neutral colors, designer furniture, no trace of childhood or warmth. Just curated cold. I didn't snoop. I didn't touch a single thing except the photo on the hallway wall. Her and that man, all teeth and champagne flutes. He had his hand on her waist like he owned her. Then I heard it. A creak upstairs. I froze. "Mom?" came a voice. Eliza. I turned toward the staircase just as she appeared in her yoga clothes and confusion. She stopped halfway down, eyes wide. "What the hell are you doing in my house?" I looked her in the face, and for a second I saw the little girl I used to braid hair for before Sunday school. Then I remembered the text. "I came to return your mistake," I said, holding up the watch box, "and to stop you before you disappear into whatever mess you think you're running toward." She sighed, rubbing her forehead. "I don't have time for this, Mom. You had time to sell the lake house. It wasn't your house anymore." "Excuse me?" I stepped closer. "Since when?" "Since you signed the transfer last year." My stomach dropped. "I never signed any transfer." "You did," she said. "We have the paperwork, the notary." Then I saw it, that flicker in her eyes, a twitch of guilt. "You forged it," I said quietly. "No!" she snapped, but her voice cracked. "You had someone sign for me, maybe even had them notarize it without me present. You tricked the system, lied to the law, over a house you didn't live in and a watch that didn't belong to you." "I needed to get out," she said, defensive now. "We're leaving, moving to Colorado. Dave got a promotion. We needed cash to start over. And that house was just sitting there, rotting in the woods. You don't even use it anymore." I slammed the watch down on her marble countertop. "That house was your father, and you sold him for a moving van and a new zip code." She flinched. We stood there, the silence a canyon between us. Then she looked away. "You don't get it. You've never understood what it's like to be stuck. I had to do something. I didn't want to ask for permission." I breathed in slow. "That wasn't yours to take. And now, sweetheart, I'm undoing everything you did." She looked at me then, and I saw it. The panic, the fear, the guilt, but also something sharper. "You think you can fix this?" she sneered. "You think you can win in court against Dave and our lawyers?" I smiled, just a little. "Who said anything about court?" That shook her, because she knew me, knew that I didn't bluff. I'd already sent the injunction. I'd already spoken to a reporter who owed me a favor. And I'd already found the notary she used, an old friend from school who'd been all too eager to admit over coffee that he hadn't actually witnessed the signature. I wasn't trying to destroy her, but I would not let her escape without facing what she'd done. So I turned and walked out, leaving the silence heavy behind me. Betty looked up from the car. "You okay?" I got in, closed the door, and said, "I'm about to be." 2 days later, the story broke. Local woman claims daughter forged documents to sell family property, elder fraud in question. I didn't leak it with malice, but I leaked it nonetheless. And when the courier called to verify, I told the truth, every careful, brutal word of it. I even let them photograph the watch, resting in my palm, the background blurred, but unmistakably my own kitchen, warm and lived in. The morning it hit stands, my phone rang nonstop. Church ladies called to check in. Neighbors dropped off pound cake like it was a funeral. Even the pastor left a voicemail full of ums and ahs, and finally a quiet, "We're praying for you, Maria." And Eliza? Silence. No calls, no texts, no knock on my door. She disappeared, but that didn't mean nothing was happening. Frank updated me daily. The injunction had put a freeze on the property, and when the Kaufmans learned they might be involved in a legal scandal over elder fraud, they stepped back so fast I swear I felt a breeze all the way from their glass office. They even offered to sell the house back to me at cost, no questions asked. It should have felt like a win, but it didn't, because while I was busy protecting my past, I realized something even uglier. My daughter was running from her future. And worse, she believed I was the enemy. She thought I was trying to trap her, control her, hold her back. So I went back to the lake house, alone. The sold sign had been pulled. No more paperwork taped to the door, just the wind and the creak of the porch swing as I stepped onto the deck. I opened the door and stood in the center of the room. That house had always been filled with noise. Henry's laughter, the smell of bacon on a Sunday, Eliza's little bare feet thumping down the hall. Now it was too quiet, but not empty. I went into our bedroom and opened the closet, still lined with our old flannels and mothball-scented blankets. I reached into the back, behind the cedar box where Henry used to keep fishing lures, and found what I came for, the tin. It was a plain cookie tin, battered and blue, full of old documents, letters, deeds, his will, and in the middle, the paper she didn't know I still had, the handwritten letter Henry wrote for her when she turned 16. The one I never gave her, because the year she turned 16, she told me she didn't want anything old and sappy. But now I read it again, aloud, in that quiet house. Eliza, if you're reading this, it means your mother thought the time was right. Maybe I'm gone, maybe I'm not, but I want you to know something. The watch I wear isn't about time. It's about memory. I wear it to remember who I am, who we are. If I leave it to you, it's not just a keepsake. It's a burden and a blessing. Don't take it lightly, and never trade it for anything less than love. Dad. My hand trembled as I folded it back, and then a sound. Gravel outside. Tires. I walked to the window and saw her car. Eliza. She stepped out slow, sunglasses on despite the shade, and walked up the path like the prodigal daughter I hadn't prayed for, but maybe needed anyway. I opened the door and stood there, neither of us speaking, her lips pressed thin, hands empty. I saw the article, she said finally. I know. I lost my job. That stopped me. She looked away. Dave told his firm I'd made some poor personal financial choices. They said it looked bad for him, told him to cut ties. And he did? I asked. She nodded. He left last night, said it was all too messy. I didn't say good. I didn't say, I told you. I just stepped aside and let her come in. She sat at the kitchen table like she used to as a teenager, slouched, quiet, staring at her hands. I messed up, she whispered. Bad. I sat across from her. Yes, you did. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them back. Why didn't you stop me sooner? I almost laughed, but it caught in my throat. Because I didn't want to believe you'd go that far. I wanted to believe I raised someone better. Silence again. Not the cold kind. The kind where things settle. I don't have anywhere to go, she said. I looked around at the walls Henry built, at the shadows of all the love we once held here. Then I guess it's good we kept the house, I said. She nodded. One tear slipped free. And just like that, we were in it together again. But forgiveness, that wouldn't come easy. And I wasn't sure yet if it would come at all. She stayed in the guest room that night. Didn't ask, didn't pretend. Just quietly carried her overnight bag, still smelling like city perfume and guilt, down the hall to the room with the faded quilt and the photo of her as a toddler in a sailor dress. She didn't close the door all the way. I noticed that. A soft little crack of vulnerability left open, like a child hoping someone would peek in. I didn't peek. I made us both tea and set hers outside her door, like she used to do for me when I had the flu. She didn't touch it until the morning. Over breakfast, she tried small talk. Weather, pine needles on the roof. I let her fumble through it. Let her sit in the discomfort of having to face the things she'd broken. But I also listened, because I could see it, the unraveling. No ring on her finger, no makeup. Just the raw face of someone whose life was suddenly no longer curated or clean. She looked like someone starting over. You know, she said eventually, pushing her eggs around the plate, Dad always said this place would be mine someday. I looked up. He said it would be yours when you were ready. You weren't. She nodded slowly. I wasn't. I was scared of being stuck, of being you. I flinched. I didn't mean that like it sounded, she said quickly. I mean, you stayed. You gave up everything. You were always holding it all together, and I thought if I stayed, I'd disappear like that too. My voice was quiet. I didn't disappear, Eliza. I built something. With love, with your father, with time. Not everyone gets that luxury. Her eyes filled again, but she didn't cry. Not this time. You said I messed with the wrong mother, she said. You were right. I set my fork down and folded my hands. Eliza, I won't lie to you. What you did, what you chose to do, was betrayal. You didn't just take a house. You tried to erase a life. My life, your father's. And for what? A man who left the second it got hard? She winced. But, I said, softening, I also know that people who are hurting do foolish things, and people who are ashamed, they double down. She nodded. I did both. I know, I said. She looked at me across the table with a kind of quiet hunger. Not for food, for forgiveness. But she didn't ask for it. Not yet. And I respected that. Instead, she said, I want to help fix it. Start by staying, I said. Help me patch the back porch, clean out the attic, wash the windows your father never liked anyone else to touch. She smiled a little. I remember that. He used to say, they'll get streaked if you don't sing while you do it. We both laughed, real and full this time. That evening, we walked down to the lake. The sun was setting, the water flat and gold as glass. She took off her shoes and stood in the shallows like she used to. I stood behind her, holding the velvet box. I opened it, looked at the watch, then at her. Are you ready? I asked. She didn't answer with words, just stepped out of the water, came to me, and closed the box with her own hand. I'll earn it, she said, and I believed her. We didn't need dramatic reconciliations or sweeping speeches. Just this, just presence, just effort. Forgiveness, I've learned, isn't one big moment. It's 1,000 small ones. It's pouring 2 cups of tea, not just one. It's setting a place at the table. It's saying, you're still mine, even after everything. That lake house still stands, and so do I. And maybe, just maybe, now, so will she.